Mr. Diaper Rash is about to read off some fake-ass accomplishments that he has done. I ain't gonna lie, this has got to be the most comical spectacle that I have seen so far from him.
Well, exactly 1 year ago today, Donald Trump pardoned every person who committed crimes for him in the January 6th attack on the Capitol, which led to Donald Trump's own indictment for conspiracy against the United States of America, were pardoned by Donald Trump on his first day in office 1 year ago, including the people who beat policemen and tried to beat policemen to death and threatened to kill Mike Pence. Today, Donald Trump stepped up to a microphone on that 1 year anniversary of his
that's like 3 times.
He stood before White House reporters with a prop that he literally did not know how to handle and almost injured himself by touching a binder clip as if for the first time in his life.
This is the book on accomplishments, and this is something. Ooh, I'm glad my finger wasn't in that sucker. That could have done some damage, but you know what? I wouldn't have shown the pain.
What?
I would have gone back. What, did you hear that? That was nasty.
Critical, political, analytical.
Yeah, Mr. Diaper Rash is about to read off some fake-ass accomplishments that he has done. So we're gonna see this. I ain't gonna lie, this has got to be the most comical spectacle that I have seen so far from him.
Well, exactly 1 year ago today, on the day he took the oath of office, an oath he doesn't understand, for the second time, Donald Trump pardoned every person who committed crimes for him in the January 6th attack on the Capitol, which led to Donald Trump's own indictment for conspiracy against the United States of America. 1,600 people who committed crimes for Donald Trump were pardoned by Donald Trump on his first day in office 1 year ago, including the people who beat policemen and tried to beat policemen to death and threatened to kill Mike Pence. Donald Trump pardoned them all. It was day one of the lawless...
Yeah, yo, Pence, where you been at, bro? I ain't see you in a minute, son. Where you been? Yo, you been hiding. You been hiding. You ain't been posting nothing. Even Joe Biden posting videos, you know what I'm saying? Son, where you been at, bro? I heard you was a white supremacist. I was watching you. I was like, oh, okay. I was gonna see what's his gangster about. Like, come on, then. Your own peoples wanted to hang you, bro. See, I believe you more than J.D. Vance. I believe you can control, but you have sense, though. That's the thing. You can't be racist and have sense. You can't have that. It's logical. You can't.
Of the Trump presidency. No one remembers the speech Donald Trump gave 1 year ago. No one walks around quoting lines from it or a single word from it, as people still do for John F. Kennedy's inauguration speech when Donald Trump was 14 years old. I'm sure even Donald Trump can remember that famous line, "Ask not what your country can do for you, ask what you can do for your country," that JFK said when Donald Trump was 14 years old.
Yo, bro, you did it again.
No one remembers a word Donald Trump said a year ago. That was the day that the President of the United States, for the first time in history, pardoned people who committed crimes for him in an attempt to overthrow a presidential election. That will be what Donald Trump is remembered for.
And a lot of other
That's what he'll be remembered for doing exactly 1 year ago, that first day. Today, Donald Trump stepped up to a microphone on that 1 year anniversary of his
that's like 3 times.
His polling numbers have sunk over the last year. And he stood before White House reporters with a prop that he literally did not know how to handle and almost injured himself by touching a binder clip as if for the first time in his life. We saw what appeared to be an exhausted 79-year-old man struggling to pretend to be
bleed easy,
interested
man.
in what he was there to do.
Here's the book on accomplishments. And this is something, ooh, I'm glad my finger wasn't in that sucker. They could have done some damage, but you know what? I wouldn't have shown the pain.
What?
I would have gone back. What, did you hear that? That was nasty. But I would not have shown the pain. I would have acted like nothing happened as my finger fell off.
Yo, bro, why you stalling, son? What are you doing, bro? Why are you talking about a goddamn paper clip that never even touched you? You stalling. Yeah, you gotta read that. You gotta read that. Yeah, that was a thick paper. You gotta read what's on that paper. Or just paper. It's your accomplishments. You gotta read your accomplishments, man. You gotta read. Yeah, but you start talking about paper clips, man. Get your ass, man.
That was a nasty. I think
Stop
somebody
laughing,
did
man.
that.
That shit ain't funny, man.
I think it was him. It was my man. How were you? You didn't do it. I know you did. I know you did. So, but here is here's the book. These are all things we have. I'm going to read a few of the samples, but look at this. These are all, each line is something that we did. Nobody did that before.
Hold on, let me see how much atrocities. Let me see. Oh, okay, look at that. Yeah. That's in 1 year. This is all in 1 year. God damn. Most career criminals rap sheets, it takes them at least a good 5 years to get this thick. At least a good 5 years to get this thick. Man, we did that 1 year. Sheesh. Y'all on your job. Y'all on your job, bro. I can't lie. You're on your job.
And it's big stuff, too. Look, we have the hottest country in the world.
Yeah, hottest mess, nigga.
So,
The man is not well. He holds up the book that represents all of the accomplishments as presented to him by his staff at the end of 1 full year of Trump governance.
I don't hear him reading it.
And he treats it like a pizza box he has just personally emptied and throws it on the floor. On the floor. Who does that? He's there to convince the press that this document that he was holding before he threw it away is a serious document. And what he's going to read to us from that document is important. That's what he's trying to convince us of. And he throws it on the floor, just throws it on the floor.
Hold on. We're going to read with this. Hold on. With the accomplishments. Okay. Trump took Christmas. What? At America Fest 2025. What? President Trump hosted a what? Benjamin Netanyahu.
Donald Trump has the weakest mind we've ever seen in the White House. He's the weakest person ever to live in the White House. He is the crybaby in chief. He is not just America's biggest crybaby. He is the world's biggest crybaby. When he's criticized by someone speaking on a television network, he says the entire network should be closed down. What kind of crybaby is that? The worst kind, the adult kind. When he doesn't get a Nobel Peace Prize, which he will never get and will never deserve, he insists that the recipient of the Peace Prize should give it to him. And pathetically, she does. And because he is the weakest, smallest human being we have ever seen in American politics,
he got the biggest
he stupidly smiles and accepts it as if it actually is his own, as if it's real. And that crybaby stood there today telling us that for the
Hold on. MAGA, anybody that was rocking with him, that's your boy. That's how he thinks. He thinks that's his. He really thinks that's his. He just want a strong arm, just take it now. I don't care if it, just give me.
First time in his life he would be stoic. He would be brave. He wouldn't flinch. If that paper clamp had hurt his finger, one of those little fingers of his,
That's a lie. You'd have been screaming.
that's when he would have shown us how brave he really is. For the first time, I guess.
For a paperclip.
I would not have shown the pain, he says. The crybaby says that. The crybaby who shows pain whenever he is criticized in any way, whenever he is disagreed with in any way.
Fellas, we gotta talk. A lot of men seem to think that Donald Trump is some kind of tough guy. He wears more makeup than Dolly Parton. Donald Trump had his daddy pay a doctor to say his Will feet hurt so he could dodge the draft. Look at that gut, like a garbage bag full of buttermilk. Guy's barely strong enough to hold an umbrella. I mean, look how he drinks water. He's got jugs, big ones. He throws tantrums.
No, get those lights off!
The guy's afraid of birds.
Don't forget, like, comment, subscribe.